Greetings and welcome to a sunny Kyalami. A record crowd has turned out for international motor racing's return to South Africa. The Fleetcare International Touring Car Challenge is the star attraction today, and my colleague Roger McClary has all the details for today's action-packed program.
Well, great to be here at Kyalami. Perfect weather. It looks like the rain's going to hold off. There's a huge crowd here, and we've got no less than 14 events on the program. We're going to have the finals of the Stanley Group in Championship for saloon cars. We've got those Genicom printed Formula Vs, always very close racing. The Mintex single-seaters, also Formula GTR. It goes on with Regional Championship, the Total Sports 2000, and also Formula Ns. But the big one, of course, is the AA Fleetcare International. Here we've got 19 cars in the lineup. We've got the world champion here. We've got British saloon car champions. We've got South African champions. They're all here in the lineup. And it's really a great pleasure for me to welcome from the UK, the voice of British touring cars in the UK, also at the World Cup final, and that's Brian Jones. You've been soaking up this week, Brian.
Thanks very much indeed, Roger. Yes, soaking up the glorious South African weather, which of course is very different from what we've got at home at the present moment. But the European contingent have got a great circuit on which to race, and I know every driver has really taken to it. They love it. But they also know they've got a fight on their hands, because they've come over with a big reputation, and they're determined to win. But one thing they've learned already in the qualifying in particular is that they've got a real fight on their hands. The final lap of qualifying almost decided it, so we've got some great stuff to look forward to.
Well, I'm certainly glad about all that. Anyway, we're going to bring you now some of the qualifying, how it all happened yesterday afternoon, also some of the action of the races that took place earlier in the day. So sit back and enjoy the excitement. Fortunately, the rain stayed away during qualifying for the AA Fleetcare International Touring Car Challenge at AA Kyalami on Friday.
Well, Nick's going to qualify car 5. He's sharing the car with Van Capelli, and unfortunately, due to the engine problems we've experienced, Van hasn't really had many laps in the car, probably about 7, that's all. And car 7, Hannes and Tiffany Dowd, we thought we'd add an international flavour to it and we'd let Tiff qualify the car. Although Hannes put up an incredible time on Wednesday with normal race tyres, he hasn't even tried the qualifying tyres. But Tiff did a good job yesterday, and we made a few changes, and it was quick this morning, so we'll have to wait and see.
We're going to make Verstaller and Winkler qualify. The reason for that is that Verstaller has ran on Michelin's, he's used to the qualifiers, and it's quite tricky, as we found out in the previous session, to find out exactly how much you should warm up that qualifier. As you know, you've got one good lap on it, and we think we minimize the risk in that way. I think time-wise it's much of a muchness, and certainly I think Dion and Sean could possibly done the same job or even done a better job. But in this case, I think it's also in the international flavour to let the guys that did it before, give them the opportunity to go and qualify for us.
The first decision as regards the Briggs Cleland car was really based on the pace that Michael has actually shown. The car is very different to that which John Cleland is used to. The car is a lot more nervous than the Cavalier. And as well as that, he's also had a few problems getting to know the circuit, which the circuit is very technical. So just based on race pace or practice pace up to this point in time, we decided to put Michael in, as obviously we'd very much like to have a pole position. As far as the Anthony Reid Grant McCleary situation, we really wanted to be able to nominate a driver, an international driver, against which we could measure our local drivers. So rather than just run two international or 2 local drivers in the qualifying session, we decided just to be brave and go out and see how they compare against each other.
The problem with the actual selection of the drivers at the moment is that our cars are out very late, and both Sorrel and Ben have had not a lot of time in these vehicles and not a lot of time to get used to them. So obviously the right decision would be to put the international guys in who experience this type of racing.
FIA Touring Car World Cup champion Paul Radishish was one of the first drivers on the track, but he was expected to face stiff competition from former South African Touring Car champion Michael Briggs in the Opel Astra. Nissan's Nick de Waal was teamed with former Grand Prix driver Ivan Capelli in the BP Nissan Sentra 200 STI, while Toyota's hopes were pinned on rally champion Serge Damzu and former British Touring Car champion Will Hoy. The rear end of the Castrol Toyota Camry shows the extent of fire damage caused by a ruptured fuel tank early in the day. Fortunately, the damage was superficial. Anthony Taylor qualified the Motorplan BMW 318i in 9th place, ahead of some of the more fancied combinations. The Krugersdorp youngster shares the former Works BMW with Britain's James Weaver, who won the Sebring 12-pounder Ferrari earlier this year. Taylor has a reputation for coming from behind, and today should be no exception. Nick de Waal qualified the BP Nissan Sentra 200 STI in 7th place, 0.45 of a second slower than teammate Tiff Nidell. The de Waal-Capelli combination has had its fair share of problems, with Capelli blowing 2 engines in practice. Spearheading the BMW challenge is German ace Joe Winkelhock in the BMW 318i Envirocar. Smoking Joe, as he's commonly known, will be sharing the BMW with newly crowned touring car champion Sean van der Linde. The diminutive German finished 3rd overall at the FIA Touring Car World Cup at Donington recently, but things did not go too smoothly for him in qualifying at AA Kyalami when bodywork fouled against a front tyre. Winkelhock was forced to pull up on the grass at Goodyear, but he eventually got going again after Marshall pulled the bodywork away from a tyre. Port Elizabeth resident Michael Briggs had no problems in qualifying for the AA Fleetcare International Touring Car Challenge. Briggs, who's teamed up with Scottish star John Cleland, was in a class of his own and turned in a blistering lap of 1 minute 47.946 to secure pole position. Mike White has been in form of late. It was an early pace set in the Minolta Toyota Camry during practice. The Boksburg-based driver posted the 2nd quickest time in qualifying and looks set for yet another front row start for today's race. Meanwhile, in the pits, Mike Briggs was being congratulated on his scorching qualifying time in the Opel Astra, but as so many in motorsport know, you can't count your chickens before they hatch. Mike White decided to call it a day confident that he'd secured 2nd place on the grid, while Joe Winkelhock limped back into the pits to have the fouling bodywork attended to. Winkelhock eventually qualified 6th. New Zealander Paul Radishish has been playing a cat-and-mouse game in the competition and made a late attempt to wrest pole position from Briggs, or at worst, secure a front row start for the Sassel Ford team. Radishish is paired with West Bank champion Sorrel van der Merwe, who's had difficulty adjusting to the front-wheel drive Mondeo. As the reigning FIA Touring Car World Cup champion, he turned on the taps in the V6-powered Sassel Ford Mondeo. The scene in the Opel racing pit was rather tense, with former saloon car champion Gordon Briggs lending some welcome moral support to his son Michael. It was a lonely Mike White who had to come to grips with being bumped from the front row by Paul Radishish, who qualified 0.095 of a second slower than Briggs.
Quite ironic. I mean, I haven't had pole position the whole year in the national championship, and on the big one we've done it. And I guess it's nothing like having a couple of stars out here to raise the game. And we certainly worked very hard at improving our car. And the lap for me was just good. It was one of those I didn't make any mistakes, and it all went together really well. But I really feel that having the internationals out here, and I really want to thank all the international guys for coming out here, they've just lifted our game. I mean, I know I'm driving a lot harder and a lot better because there's a few of these boys I want to beat.
I'm pleased to get 2nd on the grid. There's no problem. Mike, congratulations. He drove for 1 lap exceptionally well. For me, I had really no troubles. The only thing I can say is the hotter weather today, which we run, and we seem to lose a little bit more power than what we would like. But I did 2 good laps actually, but they weren't quite quick enough.
We were hoping for 3rd in a row, but unfortunately we didn't get everything completely right. We didn't get a perfect lap, and the car was good. We made a few mistakes. It could have been better, but really Mike obviously put in a real flyer, and Paul right at the end flipped us for 2nd.
So here's the starting grid for the first event. Mike Briggs strikes a massive blow for South African motorsport and starts on pole today. Starting alongside Briggs in New Zealand, Paul Radishish in the Sassel Ford Mondeo. Another great effort sees Mike White, Julian Bailey starting in third alongside Britain, Tiff Liddell and Hannes Sorber in the BP Nissan. The Castrol Toyota pair, Serge Damser and Will Hoy, qualified fifth fastest and share the third row with Joe Winkelhock and Sean Funderland in the BMW Enviro car. Nick Duval and Ivan Capelli qualified seventh fastest in the BP Nissan Sentra, a mere 0.011 of a second faster than Alex Bergstaller and Dion Joubert. And Anthony Taylor in the Motorplan BMW is the leading privateer and qualified a credible ninth fastest ahead of Grant McCleary and Anthony Reid in the PG or Glass Opal. And here are the positions from 10th to 20th with Barry Peterson and Hein Nardekar on the leading Class B qualifiers in the Volkswagen.